crash and the reset. In my first life, I thought I was the protagonist of a corporate success story. I had the twin pillars of the industry working for me, Sebastian and Theodore. Sebastian was like a blade of surgical steel, precise, cold, and devastatingly efficient. Theodore was like a wildfire, unpredictable, brilliant, and impossible to ignore. Together, they'd my company, Apex Global, a titan. But they hated each other. Every meeting was a battlefield of passive-aggressive barbs and conflicting strategies. Then came the downfall. They both resigned on the same day after a massive blowout. Without them, the vultures moved in. Fraud, embezzlement, and a plummeting stock price followed. The last thing I remember was seeing them shouting at each other on a rainy street corner. I stepped out of my car to stop them, to scream that they were ruining everything, when a truck braked too late on the slick asphalt. Darkness. Then a blinding blue screen. System initializing. User, Pendleton, recovered. Scenario, the CEO's doomed romance. Status, ruining 12 months. Chapter 1, the reset and the blue screen. The sensation of death was surprisingly cold. It wasn't a flash of light or a tunnel. It was the sound of screeching tires, the smell of burnt rubber on a rainy London street, and the sight of my two best employees, Sebastian and Theodore, screaming at each other, while my company's legacy dissolved into the gutter. I had stepped between them to stop the fight. I had reached out to grab their collars, to tell them they were geniuses, to tell them the company needed them. But then, the truck skidded. I expected silence. Instead, I got a headache that felt like a drum solo performed by a caffeinated toddler. System initializing, synchronizing with host. Arthur Pendleton. Scenario, the CEO's doomed romance. Time leap successful. 365 days remaining until the accident. I blinked, my eyelashes brushing against something hard and polished. Wood, mahogany. I sat up abruptly, my heart hammering a frantic rhythm against my ribs. I wasn't in the rain, I wasn't dying. I was in my office at Apex Global. The sunlight was streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting a golden glow over my leather-bound books and the minimalist decor. Sir, you've been staring at that stapler for exactly 4 minutes. Is it displeasing you? I spun my chair around. Standing there, holding a tablet and a steaming cup of coffee, was Julian, my personal assistant. In my past life, Julian was the only one who didn't leave. When the fraud was discovered, when Sebastian and Theodore quit in a fit of jealous rage over a woman, and when the bailiffs came to take the furniture, Julian had been there. He was the anchor I didn't deserve. Seeing him now, neatly pressed suit, silver-rimmed glasses, and that stoic, comforting presence made my throat tight. Julian, you're here. I am generally where you pay me to be, sir, he said, though his brow flickered with a hint of concern. Suddenly, a translucent blue box appeared over his head. Side character, Julian Vance. Role, the loyal shadow. Affection level for host, 85%. It hidden. I blinked. Sir? Julian reached out to set the coffee down, and his finger accidentally brushed mine. Sensory link established. He looks pale. Did he skip breakfast again? I should have ordered those croissants from the bakery he likes. His eyes are beautiful when they're confused. Wait, stop that, Julian. Professionalism. I jumped back, nearly knocking my espresso over. I wasn't just seeing stats, I was hearing his unfiltered thoughts. And apparently, my stoic PA had a massive 85% rated crush on me. The Chaos Twins. A loud bang at my office door announced the arrival of the two men who had inadvertently ruined my life. Sebastian walked in first, looking like a statue carved from ice and expensive wool. He was the head of operations, brilliant, cold, and a perfectionist. Theodore followed, his tie slightly loose, looking like a rogue scholar. He was the head of creative, unpredictable, fiery, and a genius. Arthur, Sebastian said, slamming a file on my desk. Theodore's creative approach to the New York account is a fiscal suicide note, and Sebastian's logic is so boring it'll put the investors into a permanent coma. Theodore retorted. Warning. Plot trigger detected. New character entering. Lyra, female lead. System data. The two employees will become rivals for her love, leading to the company's collapse. I looked at the blue text. In the original timeline, Lyra joined today. They both fell for her. Their professional rivalry turned into a romantic war, and they quit because they couldn't stand seeing the other with her. Not this time, I thought. If they are fighting because of this girl, I need to make them friends first. If they become real friends, they won't need to fight for a girl. Real friends don't let a newcomer ruin their bond. If they are a united front, the company stays safe. The strategy begins. Both of you sit down, I commanded. They stopped mid-glare and sat. I walked around the desk. I needed to know what I was working with. I placed a hand on Sebastian's shoulder and Theodore's arm simultaneously. Sensory link maximized. Sebastian, Theodore's cologne is too strong. It smells like sandalwood and arrogance. Why does he have to stand so close? His hair looks soft. No, focus. He's an idiot. Theodore. Sebastian is wearing that blue suit again. It makes his eyes look like glaciers. I want to smash those glasses off his face, or maybe see what he looks like without the tie. He's so annoying. So annoying. I pulled away, stunned. They didn't hate each other, they were obsessed with each other. They were just too competitive to realize it. I have an announcement, I said. We have a new joiner today, She will be an intern rotating between your departments. As if on cue, a bubbly girl with sparkling eyes walked in. Hi, I'm Lyra. System. The female lead has arrived. However, I continued, to ensure her training is balanced, Sebastian and Theodore, you two will be co-mentoring her. Together, in the same office, you will share the executive suite on the 40th floor. What? They shouted in unison. It's for synergy, I lied smoothly. You need to learn to be friends, or at least, comfortable colleagues. If you can't work in the same room, you can't lead this company. My plan was simple, force them into friendship proximity. If they became best friends, the rivalry would vanish, and the company would be saved. I would be the matchmaker. I turned to Julian, who was watching me with a mixture of confusion and admiration. Julian, playing with fire. But he looked so determined. I'd follow him into any disaster. I coughed, my face warming up. Julian, prepare the moving boxes. The friendship initiative starts now. I didn't know then that by forcing two opposites into a small room, I wasn't creating a brotherhood. I was creating a powder keg of romance that would blow my friendship plan right out of the water. Chapter 2. The shared airspace. The transition to the 40th floor was less of a corporate relocation and more of a tactical deployment. By 10 a.m., the movers had finished pushing two massive mahogany desks together, facing each other like two battleships prepared for a broadside. I stood in the doorway, observing the friendship zone I had created. It was a masterpiece of forced proximity. Sir, Julian whispered, appearing at my shoulder with his usual ghost-like efficiency. I have ensured there is only one stapler, one high-end espresso machine, and the thermostat is locked at a neutral 21 degrees Celsius. They will have to communicate if they want to change anything. Julian, I've also doubled the office insurance. If Theodore throws a paperweight, at least the glass is reinforced. Why is Arthur smiling like that? He looks like he's watching a science experiment. A very cute, slightly mad scientist. I cleared my throat, ignoring the 85% affection box flickering over Julian's head. It's not an experiment, Julian. It's a stabilization strategy. If they share a stapler, they share a soul. The move-in. Sebastian arrived first. He looked at the combined desk with the expression of a man who had just discovered a cockroach in his caviar. He placed his laptop down with a clinical click, precisely parallel to the edge of the desk. Then came Theodore. He didn't walk in. He erupted in, carrying a large, slightly dying fern and a box of creative vinyl records. Absolutely not, Sebastian said without looking up. The plant is shedding. It's a biological hazard to my hardware. It's a monstera, Seb. It adds oxygen. Theodore countered, slamming the plant down right on the center line. God knows you need it. You look like you haven't taken a deep breath since the fiscal year 2019. I stepped into the room, deciding it was time for a tactile check-in. I walked over and placed a hand on Sebastian's shoulder while leaning over to adjust the monstera's leaf, my arm brushing Theodore's. Sensor link established. Sebastian, his skin is too close. Theodore's sleeve is rolled up. Why does he have to show off his forearms? He's doing it on purpose. He knows it's distracting. He's leaning in. I can smell his coffee. It's cheap, burnt, and actually, it's not that bad. It smells like him. Damn it. Theodore. He's wearing that cologne again. The one that smells like a library in the middle of a forest. It's so Sebastian. I want to ruffle his hair just to see him have a meltdown. Why is he so still? If I poked him, would he break? He's so annoying. So annoying. I wonder what he looks like when he laughs. I pulled back, feeling the static of their mutual obsession vibrating in my own fingertips. They were so focused on hating each other's details that they were accidentally memorizing each other's existence. Gentlemen, I said brightly, I see you're settling in. Lyra will be here shortly to begin her first training session on the unified workflow model. The arrival of the catalyst. Lyra skipped into the room 5 minutes later, clutching a pink notebook. Good morning, mentors. I'm ready to learn everything. System notification, female lead active. Current plot, the triangle formation. Hint. The male lead should now offer her a chair. In the previous life, Theodore would have jumped up to offer his seat, and Sebastian would have offered a brand new ergonomic one, leading to a 20-minute argument about spinal health and gallantry. Lyra, I interrupted before they could move. There's a small stool in the corner. Why don't you sit there? Theodore and Sebastian need to maintain their synergy face-off at the main desk. Oh, okay. Lyra sat on the tiny stool, looking like an afterthought. Theodore and Sebastian both looked at her, then back at each other. The rivalry wasn't triggering for her. They were too busy guarding their desk territory to care about the new girl's seating arrangement, the lunch trap. By noon, the tension was thick enough to serve as a building material. I decided to initiate phase 2, the shared meal. I've ordered from that French bistro down the street, I announced. But Julian and I have an urgent meeting regarding the audit. So the three of you will have to eat here, together. On this desk. I don't eat at my workspace, Sebastian said firmly. Crumbs are the enemy of efficiency. I'll feed you then, princess. Theodore joked, though his eyes weren't laughing. Theodore, I shouldn't have said that. Why did I say that? Now I'm thinking about his mouth. Stop. Think about burgers, cold, hard burgers. I signaled to Julian. He brought in the bags and set them down. I caught Julian's eye. Julian, let's go. Our audit awaits. We stepped out into the hallway, but I didn't go far. I lingered by the glass partition, watching. Julian stood beside me, his presence a comforting weight. Sir, spying on employees is generally discouraged by HR, Julian noted. I'm not spying, I'm monitoring the investment, I whispered. Inside, the scene was shifting. Lyra was talking animatedly about her favorite TV shows, but Sebastian and Theodore were barely listening. They were engaged in a silent war over the shared French fries. Theodore reached for a fry. Sebastian reached for the same one. Their tangled. System alert, unexpected physical contact. Romance gouge. It's 2%. They didn't pull away immediately. They froze. Sebastian's pale, slender fingers were hooked under Theodore's tan, rougher ones. Sebastian, his hand is hot. Is he always this warm? It's like touching a heater. I should pull away. I'm a professional. I'm a team leader. But I don't want to move. Theodore, his pulse, I can feel it in his fingertips. It's fast. He's as flustered as I am. Look at him. He's actually blushing. The great iceberg is melting. Lyra, blissfully unaware, kept talking, and then in the third season, they finally realized they're soulmates. Sebastian snapped his hand back, coughing into his napkin. Theodore, you have salt on your lip. Do I? Theodore leaned forward, closing the gap between their faces. Clean it off for me then. It was a challenge, a classic Theodore provocation. In the old timeline, Sebastian would have scoffed and called him a child. This time, Sebastian reached out. He didn't use a napkin. He used his thumb. He swiped it across the corner of Theodore's mouth, his touch lingering a second or too long to be considered cleaning. Theodore's breath hitched. The air in the room changed. It wasn't friendship anymore. It was something heavy, electric, and entirely unplanned. System message. Mission deviation. Hostess goal. Make them friends. Current status. Tension at critical levels. I stood in the hallway, my jaw dropping. Wait, no. That's too fast. They're supposed to go to a baseball game first. They're supposed to talk about their dads. They can't go straight to that. Sir, Julian said, his voice low and vibrating with a hidden emotion. He stepped into my personal space, his chest nearly brushing my arm. Sometimes when you force two people into a corner, they don't find friendship, they find the truth. I looked up at Julian. His eyes were dark, focused entirely on me. Julian. He's so worried about them. He doesn't see what's right in front of him. I've been in his corner for 5 years. I've shared his air every day. When is he going to force us into a corner? I felt a shiver run down my spine. My strategical movement was working too well on everyone, including myself. Julian, I whispered. I think I need to sit down. My office is open, sir, Julian replied, his hand ghosting over the small of my back. And I've already moved the audit files. We have plenty of time. System side assistance patience is reaching 90% completion. I was supposed to be the matchmaker. I was supposed to be the one in control. But as I looked at my two employees nearly vibrating with tension, and my PA looking at me like I was the only thing in the room, I realized I wasn't just rewriting their story. I was rewriting mine. Chapter 3. The three-legged trap. The friendship initiative was currently a runaway train, and I was the conductor frantically pulling levers that didn't work. According to my calculation, after the napkin incident, Sebastian and Theodore should have reached a level of mutual respect. Instead, they had reached a level of mutual hyper-awareness that made every meeting feel like a high-voltage wire about to snap. Julian, I said, pacing the length of my office, they aren't friends. They're becoming intense. I need them to do something active, something that requires cooperation, not just staring at each other's mouths over a desk. Julian was calmly organizing my schedule for the upcoming week. He's pacing again. His hair is messy from running his fingers through it. I want to smooth it down. I want to tell him that his plan is technically working, just not in the way he intended. Sir, Julian said aloud, the annual Apex Executive Retreat is this weekend. Perhaps the outdoor activities will provide the active cooperation you're looking for. I stopped. The retreat, of course. The obstacle courses, the trust falls. The fresh air! It's perfect. We'll force them to rely on each other's physical strength. Nothing builds a platonic brotherhood like a mud pit. System notification, new mission. Mission. Trust trials. Objective. Force Sebastian and Theodore into a team-building challenge. Ward. Derating +2 10. Pack the bags, Julian. We're going to the woods. The great outdoors. The retreat was held at a luxury lodge nestled in the mountains. It was beautiful, serene. Most importantly, lacked any distractions like Lyra's accidental tripping. I stood at the edge of the grassy field, wearing my most authoritative boss tracksuit. Sebastian, standing nearby, looking deeply offended by the existence of grass. He was wearing a designer athletic set that probably cost more than my first car. Theodore, meanwhile, was already doing lunges, his t-shirt clinging to his back in a way that made Sebastian's eyes dart away every 5 seconds. "All right, everyone," I shouted, clashing two cymbals together. A bit dramatic, but I needed their attention. Today's main event is the Apex Trust Race. You will be paired up and your legs tied together. You must navigate the forest trail, cross the stream, and reach the finish line. I looked at my clipboard, pretending to be surprised. Oh, look at that. Sebastian and Theodore, you're a pair. Sebastian's head snapped toward me. Arthur, this is a liability. I have delicate ankles, and I have a competitive streak that usually ends in property damage, Theodore added, though he was already walking towards Sebastian with a length of soft rope. Come on, Seb. Let's see if you can keep up with a real athlete. I stepped forward to help tie the knot. I knelt down between them, my hands gripping Sebastian's ankle and Theodore's calf. Censoring established. Sebastian, his skin is so warm. Why is he so close? I can feel the heat radiating off his leg. If we have to run like this, our hips will be touching. Our shoulders will be rubbing. I'm going to lose my mind. Focus on the goal. Focus on winning. Don't focus on the way he's grinning at me. Theodore, he's trembling. Is he scared of a little race? Or is he reacting to me? I want to see him sweat. I want to see that perfect hair get messy. I'm going to lean into him, the race, just to see what happens, purely for strategic reasons, of course. I tightened the knot with a smirk. There. Inseparable. Now go. The forest trail. 2 p.m. I followed them at a distance, with Julian walking beside me, carrying a first aid kit. Sir, they appear to be arguing about the physics of a synchronized gait, Julian noted. Indeed, they were. Left, Theodore. I said left. Sebastian yelled as they stumbled into a fern bush. My left or left? Give me a beat. Seb. 1, 2, 1, 2. Theodore grabbed Sebastian's waist to steady them. They started to move in a rhythmic, albeit awkward, shuffle. Because they were tied at the ankle, they had to press their bodies together to maintain balance. Sebastian's arm was thrown over Theodore's shoulder. Theodore's arm was locked firmly around Sebastian's waist. As they reached the stream, the unexpected turn happened. Theodore stepped on a mossy rock and slipped. Instead of falling alone, he dragged Sebastian down with him. They tumbled into a shallow, muddy bank, landing in a tangled heap of limbs and expensive sportswear. I rushed forward. Are you all right? Before I could reach them, I saw it. They weren't fighting, they were staring. Theodore was pinned under Sebastian. Sebastian's hands were planted on either side of Theodore's head. Their faces were inches apart, both breathing heavily, their chests heaving in sync. Mud was splattered across Sebastian's cheek, and Theodore reached up not to push him off but to wipe it away. Sebastian, I can't move. I don't want to move. His eyes are so bright, he's not mocking me right now. He's looking at me like, I'm the only thing in this forest. My heart is going to burst. I think I'm going to. Theodore, he's so heavy. It feels good. I want to pull him down. I want to know if he tastes like that expensive tea he drinks. Just 1 second. If he doesn't move, I'm going to kiss him. Warning. Dramatic shift detected. Romance gauge, 45%. Stability rating, plummeting. Ahem, I cleared my throat loudly. They jumped apart, or tried to. They were still tied together. They ended up rolling awkwardly in the mud until Julian stepped in with a pair of scissors. Let me assist you, Julian said, his voice a cool breeze over a wildfire. As Julian cut the rope, I caught a glimpse of his own thoughts. Julian, they're falling for each other. It's so obvious even the birds are embarrassed. And here is Arthur. playing God with their hearts, completely unaware that he's doing the same thing to me. Every time he looks at them with that matchmaker spark, I wish he'd look at me like that just once. Felt a pang in my chest. I turned to Julian, who was helping Sebastian up. Julian, are you okay? Julian looked at me, his glasses slightly fogged from the humidity. I am perfectly fine, sir. Just ensuring the assets are undamaged. PM. That evening, the atmosphere at the lodge was strange. Lyra was trying to start a campfire song, but Sebastian and Theodore were sitting on opposite ends of the porch, both looking at the moon and pointedly not looking at each other. I sat on a rocking chair, feeling exhausted. My plan to make them friends had resulted in them nearly making out in a mud pit. If they fell in love, they'd get distracted. If they broke up, the company would die. I needed to find a way to pivot back to safe, boring friendship. Sir, Julian said, handing me a glass of wine. You've done enough for today. I just wanted them to be stable, Julian, I sighed. Julian sat on the railing of the porch, looking out into the dark. Stability is an illusion, Arthur, especially in matters of the heart. He used my first name. My heart skipped. You called me Arthur, I whispered. Julian stiffened, his shadow long against the wooden floor. I did. I'm overstepping. But he looks so small in that big chair. I want to sit next to him. I want to tell him that he doesn't have to save the company alone. My apologies, sir, Julian said, gathering his professional mask. The wine must be stronger than anticipated. I reached out and touched his hand, the one resting on the railing. Sensory link. Maximum overload. Julian. A scream of pure longing. I love him. I've loved him since the first day he yelled at a printer. I'll stay until the end of the world. Just let me hold his hand, just for a minute. I didn't let go. I squeezed his hand, my mind racing. My employees were falling in love, my company was on a knife's edge, and my shadow was actually a son I had been ignoring for years. Don't apologize, I said softly. I like it when you call me Arthur. Inside the lodge, a loud crash sounded. Theodore and Sebastian were arguing again. Something about who was better at roasting marshmallows, but for the first time, I didn't turn around to check on them. I kept my eyes on Julian. The matchmaker was finally getting caught in his own net. Chapter 4. The harmony of conflict. The morning after the mud pit incident was draped in a thick, awkward fog both literally and figuratively. At the breakfast buffet, Sebastian and Theodore stood exactly 6 feet apart, focusing on their respective plates with the intensity of surgeons. I sat with Julian at a small table by the window. I was nursing a lukewarm tea, my mind spinning. The system was hovering in the corner of my vision, glowing, menacing red. Warning. Repression levels critical. System suggestion, the catalyst of art. Objective, host a karaoke night. Music bypasses the logical brain. Julian whispered, leaning in. Do we have the portable karaoke machine in the equipment van? Julian paused, a piece of toast halfway to his mouth. Karaoke? Is he trying to finish them off? Sebastian's singing voice is likely a series of monotone frequencies, and Theodore will probably try to perform a one-man rock opera. This is a recipe for a noise complaint. We do, sir, Julian replied calmly, though I should warn you the local wildlife might not appreciate the friendship initiative in musical form. Perfect. Set it up in the Great Hall for tonight. Mandatory attendance. The setup, 7 p.m. The Great Hall was decorated with string lights and a small, slightly rickety stage. I had provided plenty of liquid courage, craft beers for Theodore, and a very expensive, very crisp Riesling for Sebastian. Lyra was already on stage performing a bubblegum pop song that was so upbeat it made my teeth ache. She was actually a decent singer, but once again, the male leads weren't looking at her. They were sitting at the bar, back to back, nursing their drinks in a silence so heavy it felt structural. All right. I jumped onto the stage after Lyra finished. For our next cooperation exercise, we're doing duets. And I've already pre-selected the first pair. Pointed a finger toward the bar. Sebastian, Theodore, get up here. Theodore choked on his beer. Sebastian's glass hit the counter with a sharp clack. I don't sing, Arthur, Sebastian said, his voice echoing with cold finality. I manage operations. I do not perform. And I don't duet, Theodore added, standing up and wiping his mouth. Especially not with someone who probably thinks a C major scale is a type of fiscal graph. It's a team-building requirement, I said, leaning over the edge of the stage. I reached out and grabbed both of their wrists as they stood near the stairs, trying to pull them up. Sensory established. Sebastian, my heart is thumping against my ribs. If I go up there, I'll be standing under a spotlight with him. Everyone will see. See what? See that I can't stop looking at the way his throat moves when he swallows? I hate this. I hate Arthur. I want to hear Theodore sing. I bet his voice is like warm honey. Theodore. His hand on my wrist is freezing, but mine is sweating. This is a disaster. I'm going to humiliate myself, but if I don't go up, Sebastian will think I'm a coward. I'll show him. I'll sing so loud he won't be able to hear his own boring thoughts. I wonder if he knows the words to any song written after 1950. Practically dragged them onto the stage. The song is Under Pressure by Queen and David Bowie. You're joking, Sebastian hissed. I never joke about Queen, I replied, hopping off the stage and landing next to Julian. The performance. The music started, that iconic driving bass line. Theodore took the first verse. To my shock and clearly to Sebastian's, Theodore didn't just sing, he performed. His voice was a rich, gritty baritone that filled the room. He moved with a natural grace, pacing the stage like a caged tiger. Sebastian, oh God, he's incredible. The way he hits those notes, it's like he's shouting at the world. Why am I staring at his lips? Sing, Sebastian. Sing or you'll die of embarrassment.